Welcome to the High Rankings podcast, brought to you by Dispensary-Growth, the preeminent SEO agency only working with premium cannabis dispensaries. In our episodes, we bring you the most up-to-date strategies and tools for your dispensary's SEO game plan so that you can reach the top of the search engine rankings and capitalize on your growing organic traffic to increase your sales. A light-hearted mix of our daily lives and SEO knowledge will leave you laughing and informed so that you keep coming back for the next episode. Hello, welcome. We are on episode 99 of the High Rankings podcast. 99.
Woo! Shout out to Gretz.
99. Can you believe it?
Yeah, shout out to Gretzky. The dude's a badass. I saw him. I actually sat near his box at an Avs playoff game when he was doing the broadcast for TNT.
What the hell does this have to do with episode 99 of our podcast?
Because he wears 99 on his sweater, dum-dum.
As if all of our listeners would even know.
Yes, it's like, well, I thought it was common knowledge, but yes.
No, because most of us don't play hockey or watch hockey.
You don't have to play hockey, but that's like a common, nobody in the NHL can wear number 99 because of that. It's a retired number. So anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by Kazpots, we sat by him and seemed like a cool dude. He was like talking to fans and all that. One guy tried to buy him a beer and he politely declined. But anyway, yeah, shout out to that dude because, again, he wears number 99, past tense, wore it. Nobody in the NHL can ever wear it again. The great one. So anyway.
Well, thanks for that.
The only person who doesn't know that.
Episode 99. It's crazy. We are going to record episode 100 next week. It's going to be a fun episode. We're not really going to talk about specific topics next week. We're just going to have a fun, lighthearted episode. So stay tuned for that. 100. But yeah, next week will be a fun time. So anyway, it's been a whole week since we recorded the last episode. Things have occurred. What's new with you? What's occurred in your life?
No. What happened in your life?
Well, we had the first Grand Prix of the season. The Australian Grand Prix. That was a shit show of a Grand Prix. It rained, which rain always brings an interesting Grand Prix.
It was in Australia?
It was in Melbourne, not Melbourne, Melbourne, Australia. And I actually watched it live and it was midnight. Well, it should have started at midnight. It didn't for a bunch of different reasons. But yeah, it was McLaren qualified 1-2. On the grid. No spoilers, but Lando did in fact win the Grand Prix. It was touchy for a second because obviously rain. There were quite a few DNFs. Isaac Hadjar, one of the rookies who is a rookie driver for the Visa, RB, Cash App, whatever the hell they're calling themselves this season. He didn't even make it to start the Grand Prix because he crashed out on the, what do they call it? Not the warm-up lap, the formation lap. Yeah, he crashed out in the formation lap. So there was that. I will say one of my favorite moments of the entire weekend was as a result of that. And not because he crashed out. He crashed out and was visibly crying on camera. And he was walking back to his team through the paddock. It is a well-known fact that his favorite driver of all time is Lewis Hamilton. And he was so excited to shake Lewis Hamilton's hand earlier in the weekend and adores him. He is his hero. And he was walking back through the paddock with his helmet on and you could tell he was crying. I mean, it was very clearly obvious. And Lewis Hamilton's father came out from the Ferrari area and walked up to him and gave him a hug and gave him a pep talk and walked him back for a moment. And it was just great to see. Not the pain that Isaac was going through, but the fact that his hero's father came out and consoled him. And afterwards, there was an interview with Lewis Hamilton's dad, Anthony, and he was talking about why he had done what he'd done. And that was probably my favorite moment of the weekend. I mean, my team, obviously, Lando came first, so there's that. And then if anybody watches F1, everybody would know who Helmut Marko is, and he can just go fuck himself for what he said about Isaac and how he was embarrassing. And yeah, it was shitty. But it was a really great race. The Lewis in the Ferrari did not do fantastic, but we're going to let that go because it's his first time in a Ferrari and he's still kind of getting used to the car. And he also got damaged from an overtake from, I think it was Oscar Piastri. But anyway, so yeah, that was great. It was the Melbourne Formula One and it was the opening Formula One race of the season. And this weekend we have China and I think the race is at like 3:00 my time. So I will not be watching it live. So yeah, that was great.
And what else happened?
So the reason that I was up watching it live was because my sleep was all jacked up because I had 4 wisdom teeth taken out on Friday.
Yeah. Like yanked right out of your mouth?
Yank would be, I wish, would be, yeah, it was not.
Hug them
I
out?
am,
Or
I
what?
am very grateful that they can only do that once. Let's put it that way. I will say this. I had no frame of reference because I've never had a surgery. I've never had anything other than a local anesthetic. And that was like for when I had a deep clean teeth thing. I've never broken a bone. Like, I've only ever had one cavity in my life, and that was, in fact, in one of my wisdom teeth. And the dentist at the time said, I'll do this for you, but there's going to become a point at which you're going to have to keep having them filled because notoriously fillings don't really last in wisdom teeth, I guess. I don't know why. But I've only ever had one cavity. Touch wood, I've never had any major medical stuff. So I had no frame of reference for this whole situation. And I had talked to the hygienist like a couple of weeks before, and she was like, oh, this dentist is great. It's going to be fine. Like, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, that's not really true.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, my hygienist is a magician when it comes to injections. Like, because when you have a deep clean, they numb your whole mouth, or they numb whichever part of the mouth they're deep cleaning, whatever. She is a wizard with the numbing injection. Didn't feel anything with her. Not the case with the oral surgeon. Yeah, she's not so good. Also, bedside manner, not terrible, but not great. She was just going to start the whole procedure. And I was like, well, I'm like, before we do this, I need you to set expectations and I need you to walk me through what you're doing. And she's like, as I do it. And I go, no, like now. like now, like walk me through. So I have an expectation, because if I don't have an expectation, you know me, I'm very much a why person, right? So I'm not just going to sit in your chair and let you do stuff and not have any understanding of why, what, when, and how, So, so then she like walked me through it. Anyway, not great with the shots or the numbing shots, but they mostly worked. The first tooth came out and like I felt pressure, which she told me I would feel, but no pain. And I thought I might like be aware of the tooth coming out, if that makes sense. Not at all. So that was the top one. Then she did on one side. Then the second one on the other side came out. That required a drill. By the way, let me just preface this by right now. If you don't want to hear about this, skip. I'm not going to go graphically into detail, but trigger warning. If you don't want to hear about the dental procedure, skip forward a little bit. I should have said that in the beginning. My apologies. Skip forward. Anyway, the bottom tooth on the same side required a drill. Again, wasn't aware that it came out. She told me, it's out. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, we'll give you a little break. Okay. So I text, my aunts were in the waiting room waiting on me, text them. I'm like, 2 out. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. If this is how it's going to go, it wasn't great, but it wasn't like awful either. Right. She's got 2 assistants in there. The first assistant, the first time the first tooth came out, I was holding her hand. But after that, I was like, okay, now I know what to expect, right? So I'm okay. And I could feel myself relaxing. Third tooth was the other top one came out fine. The 4th tooth, let me just tell you something. If she'd have started with that tooth, I might not have made it through to the other 3. It took longer to get that one out than it took all of the other 3 combined.
Was it just bigger or deeper? Or?
I guess she said that the way that the root was, I almost had like, because normally you have 2, I guess, and it was almost like I had 3. And so it took, my whole body was shaking so much, like so much. My Apple Watch was dinging, I guess, because my heart rate must have been going off the chain. Like my whole body, and there was pockets of it that I could feel. So she kept having to go in and give me more numbing where she could. And like then more drilling and then numbing, whatever. I was in the full body shakes, just like, woo. And then eventually she said she had to cut it in 2 to get one side out and then the other side out. And then obviously stitches or whatever. That was brutal. I'm not even going to lie and say it wasn't. It was brutal to the point that she took a break some point in all of that mix. It was not a good time. Not a good time.
She got tired from drilling your tooth.
Drilling the bone. But she told me, because I thought I only had one impacted. I guess both of the bottom were impacted. And what she did tell me was this. She goes, when you have your wisdom teeth taken out when you're younger, because they're like freshly in there, there's been no opportunity for like your bone to grow into your teeth typically. So that's why when you're younger, it's easier to take them out. But as you get older, the bone kind of grows and then around your tooth, and that's what makes it harder. So there's a lesson to you all. So anyway, originally I had been planning on driving home, but I had messaged my aunts and been like, hey, listen, can you just be on standby? Because my husband was working. I didn't know if he was going to be available. Turns out he was, but I said, can you just be on standby? Because they also live pretty close to the dentist. And they were like, you know what? We'll just come to the dentist. And I was like, okay, fine. And I thought they might let them in the room with me, but I'm kind of glad they didn't, because not for any reason that I don't know that I would have wanted them to have had to have been there to deal with. I don't know. Anyway, kind of wish they were, but I'm kind of glad that they weren't. So I walked out into the waiting room. I must have been like white as a ghost. I was still shaking. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to drive you home. And I was like, oh, I can drive. And they were like, no. I was like, still like, I think it was the adrenaline dump more than anything.
Yeah.
They drove me home, and I'm going to skip a whole bunch of it. But I will say this, the recovery was a lot quicker and a lot less painful than I thought it was going to be. And there was one point on Friday, of course, I got antibiotics and I got pain meds and all the rest of it. But there was one point on Friday when I could feel myself panicking a little. And it was like early stages of Friday. So I got home just past, I probably got home about 2:30ish. And my husband got my pain medicine, and they tell you to take it like as soon as you get it. But because I have migraines really bad, and sometimes these migraines have been like 2 weeks long, I think my body went into the panic mode of, oh my gosh, how long am I going to feel like this for? Because I have that with my migraines a lot. And I think it kind of carried over from that. And I was a moment in time when I went into panic mode, and I was like, oh my gosh, how long am I going to feel like this for? Because I felt like garbage. I obviously had pain. You have gauze in your mouth, and I had to go through that a few times. At one point I felt really nauseous, and I was like, oh gosh, how long am I going to go through this? And I'm going to tell you this much. I only ever took 2 pain pills, and that was on the first day. And I haven't taken any since then. And I cannot believe how little pain I've been in. And I cannot believe how quickly I was able to eat food.
Really?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, would I ever want to go through that again? 100% no. But I will say that I was going stir crazy by Saturday. Like, I could have gotten out of the house and whatever, because I had prepared. I had like freshly clean bed linen. I had a bunch of pajamas ready. I had drinks all on my nightstand. I had my whole house cleaned, because I just assumed I was going to be down and out for the whole weekend. That's what I just assumed. So I was like prepared, ready. Like, I had showered right before I went to the dentist. Like, I mean, skincare, everything done. Because I was like, I'm going to be out for a whole weekend. Not even. I was going nuts by like Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon. I told my husband, I'm like, you need to get me out of the house on Sunday. Like, I'm going bananas. So Sunday, I was out of the house. My husband took me to the bookstore, which was like awesome as like a treat. Like, good job. He took me to Trader Joe's. I got a sandwich from Sprouts. Like, I was solid.
No pub sub?
Huh?
No pub sub?
No, I got a tuna sandwich from, because you can't eat things like rice or anything like small that's gonna like maybe get stuck in there.
Yeah.
But I did get a sandwich. I will say this. Sometimes it got kind of tight, like it felt tight to open my mouth. So eating the sandwich was like, it was hard work chewing it, if that makes sense. So I only ate half the sandwich at lunch. But then he got me this, like, it's like a mandarin on steroids. I can't remember what it's called, but I also got this like really fresh, like mandarin thing. It's like a sumo mandarin or something. And oh, it was so nice and so good to eat. So I ate that and like half a sandwich. But yeah, I was out and about, went to the bookstore, Trader Joe's, Sprouts. Yeah, on Sunday. It was great.
How long did the whole procedure take?
An hour.
Oh, that's it?
It would have been a lot quicker had that last tooth not been the way that it was. Because like I said, that last tooth took basically as long as the other 3. Yeah. And then a neighbor of ours had this contraption that kind of ties around your head, but it holds ice packs in there. So I just had that on my jaw. It's funny because my jaw swelled a little bit, but it swelled like more towards because your wisdom teeth are at the back of your mouth, but where the swelling was and the light bruising, because I got a little light bruising, was like more towards the front of my mouth, which is kind of weird. Yeah. So I will say this. The anticipation of it, and then the stressing about, oh my gosh, how long is this like pain, uncomfortableness gonna last? probably was up there as the worst part of it. And that last tooth.
The anxiety.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I will say this, like, as someone who had literally no frame of reference, because I've never had anything really heavily medically done, I'm glad I was as prepared as I was, but I'm so pleasantly surprised at like how easy the recovery was.
what was the first thing you ate?
I tried to eat ice cream because everybody says like ice cream, you need soft food. That was not great. It hurt. So the first thing I had was, I also tried to eat soup because my husband made me potato and leek soup, which is one of my favorites. That also, it hurt. And I had it at like room temp. I didn't have it hot or anything. So the first thing like I actually ate that wasn't soup was scrambled eggs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But now I can basically eat anything except I'm avoiding like rice and lentils and anything small like that. No drinking through a straw. Yeah.
So no drinking through a straw would dry out the
Through a straw, smoking, vaping, any kind of like
eye socket. Is that what it is?
suction, yeah, will give you dry socket.
Oh, that just sounds terrible.
Yeah, so a friend of mine had dry socket and said it was like 2 weeks of extra pain. And apparently it's gnarly painful. And that was one thing I was really worried about. So they say basically don't drink through a straw for at least 7 days after you've had the procedure.
Ugh.
And the other thing that really was weird was my throat hurt so bad, like the back of my throat, and they didn't touch my throat. I have no idea, but it hurt like I had like a really bad cold or flu or something. Like it hurt. So at one point on Friday, swallowing hurt more than the pain from like the teeth coming out.
Ew.
That was so bizarre to me. I was like, I have no idea why this is so painful, but it's really weird.
I mean, it sounds like you're back from the IR pretty quick, though.
Yeah, it's a little achy. Like my jaw gets a little achy, but other than that, I genuinely cannot believe how quick this was to recover. Genuinely.
I had it done. They had to drill. I think they had to drill 2 of mine in half.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just that smell. Like I still remember the noise and the smell, and then the yanking, of course. But the noise and the smell was just
I don't remember any smell whatsoever, and the drill does not bother me. And I didn't feel any yanking until that last tooth, and I could feel her wiggling it to try and get it out. That was like, and there was one pocket where I could feel the pain, and she couldn't get the numbing needle into it. So that I could feel her wiggling it about like that, but I don't remember any smell.
I think I remember that, like that sensation of like you're numb, but that sensation of something being removed from a hole.
I never got that at all out of any of the
Head.
4 of them.
Yeah.
I thought I'd have some kind of concept of it actually coming out the hole, because they're not small teeth. Because I asked her to look at my teeth midway through when we took the break. So I saw 2 of them. They're not small teeth at all. So I assumed the same thing. You'd feel that like nothing. Didn't feel it.
Well, you were doing that. I was playing hockey.
Yeah.
And let's see, got together some friends, went to a nice Thai restaurant. Yeah, just live my best life. Going to Raleigh next week. That'll be fun. Yeah, I I had a great weekend.
Right. Well, good for you.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had a fun time. Avs won. Avs are on a heater now. Oh yeah, I think it was a trade deadline in the NHL this past weekend. So teams are like ramping up for the playoffs. Avs are looking pretty good. They've got some new personnel. So yeah, I had a great weekend.
Wow. Good for you. Glad one of. Oh, actually, I didn't have honestly. I got to go to the bookstore, and my husband bought me some books. Oh, I also I did. This didn't happen on Saturday, but I found my favorite book of the year, and up there was one of my favorites of all time. And I read it a few weeks ago. I was one that I recommended for your girlfriend to read, and I found from a book dealer a first edition signed copy of this book.
Oh, which one?
And it's the British version. It's called All the Colors of the Dark. All the Colors of the Dark. And it's the British version, which means that color is spelt the British way. So it's the British first edition and it's signed. And I now have that in my collection. And I'm very happy about it.
COLOUR?
Yeah.
I think I remember saying it. Maybe.
I sent you a screenshot and told you to tell her to read it.
Maybe she's mentioned it. I think she might have started, perhaps.
Maybe. Anyway, yeah. So I now own every book he's ever written, and including a YA one. So I think it's 1, 2, It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books of his, but one of them is a British first edition signed.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, you were, getting your
Face rearranged.
part. Yeah, I was playing hockey and living my best life. So
Yay.
that was a great weekend.
Good for you. Did you get affected by any of these horrific storms, tornado-y things, or are you too far out of that path for that over there?
No, not at all.
There was some really bad damage done over the weekend.
Oh, no, we did not see any of that.
Well, that's good because there was some really bad. We had tornadoes here actually, not anywhere near as bad as like some of the other places, but yeah, it's pretty bad. So anyway, enough about that. We are moving on. We are done with teeth, thank God. And now we're on to episode 99. It's so bananas.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But we'll talk about how crazy that is in the next episode. So today we are going to be talking about content pruning and why it is potentially a game changer for your dispensary's SEO. So that is the topic of episode 99. So we'll start with the obvious question. What on earth is content pruning?
I would define it as cleaning up content that's already on the website. So content could be like a blog, brand page, a city page, a state page, qualifying condition, whatever article or page type is on the website. Process of cleaning it up, removing, consolidating, or really updating underperforming content.
So basically, since we talk about cannabis, let's liken this to a plant, a cannabis plant or any other plant, is that you have to remove like any stuff that's like dead or that's causing your plant not to grow in order for it to grow stronger and better. Like we have a basil plant out front that we were gifted for Christmas. And yeah, you have to remove any of like the dead stuff from it in order for it to keep growing. So that's kind of the principle of pruning it, right? Basically the same as you would a plant or bush or anything else like that, is that you have to keep taking care of it in order for it to reach its best potential.
Correct. You want to trim it. Yes. Keep taking care of it. Run tests on it, run regular audits on it, and make necessary changes.
So when we talk about plants, we understand why pruning works, right? Obviously, we just discussed it. But in terms of like content pruning, explain like what about it works, like why you can't just leave what's on there and just create new stuff. Why do you actually, what about pruning it actually makes a difference?
Well, to start, it's one of the, let's say you're just starting SEO, updating content that's already on the website is one of the easiest levers to pull to get like a quick win, so to speak. So like if you want better rankings, like more traffic in a short amount of time, let's say you're just starting SEO on like you're taking over a website or something, updating old content is like one of the easiest ways to get traffic quick. That updating and adding in internal links with the right strategy, of course, that's a great way to start. But sorry, your question was
like, why does it work? Like in terms of like,
you know what, it works because as long as it's like quality content, it's like it's not like shit AI content.
Yeah,
it's something that people are looking for. It's providing users what it is that they're looking for. So like if you look at Wikipedia, the reason why it's one of the most popular websites in the world and on the internet is because it's constantly updated. Like really like with the amount of users, I bet it's at least every couple minutes. So somebody's updating a page on there.
The only thing that concerns me about Wikipedia is anybody can write anything on.
Right. There's like minimal oversight. It's kind of
like
kind of like Reddit, which is why there's like, I mean, there's like moderators, but there's so much content on there. It's always being added to or updated. But updating content is a very strong signal to Google because it tells Google like, hey, this website is constantly getting attention. It's clean. There's no like fluff BS on here, and it's serving users in a very specific niche. In this case, it's dispensaries.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So when you are pruning it, like you're basically taking like, say, outdated content out. So when Google like is crawling your website, it's not now crawling stuff that doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? So
Right.
when it crawls your website, what it's finding is good pages. It's finding pages with content that's up to date, that's relevant, versus spending time or your crawl budget on pages that are outdated or irrelevant.
Right.
So in that case, that just helps your ranking because it's got quality stuff that it's finding.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. That does make sense. So we know how it works or why it works. How do you know what to prune though? Because like when you're looking at like plants, bushes, trees, whatever, it's patently obvious, right? What you need to remove. But when it comes to like web pages, maybe not so much. So if I'm a first timer for my dispensary or I'm new to SEO, how do I know like, oh well, this page needs pruning or this section needs pruning? Like, how do I know that?
Yeah, so you can use an audit tool like SEMrush. You can use SEMrush. We like to use Screaming Frog.
Yeah.
And Screaming Frog will go through your content and it'll look for thin content. And if it's thin, if it's identified as thin in an audit, chances are it's not too much value. So this can be like a deal page where there's like an image embedded on the page, but there's like no real content on there.
Is that what thin means in terms of Google? Is that what it means?
Is that what means?
Thin.
Yeah, like no words on the page, no
Right.
content.
Yeah.
Content meaning words on the page. So if you have a deal page, you should put like a summary of the deals on the page with text. But going back to the audit, there's tools that can identify low value or thin content. And then you can go into your Google Analytics and you can look at your landing pages and screens, and you can look at like your 20%, like bottom of the barrel, like of your entire website of all the pages. What are the bottom 20%?
Yeah.
Update those, like we just talked about, like adding in content, adding in internal links, driving more backlinks. And if those are not moving the needle, so to speak, then you can start to like merge them or 301 them or take other actions. But you can use tools like Screaming Frog, Google Analytics, and Search Console to identify those low performing pages.
Okay, so you can use an audit. Yeah, I guess that would be the way, right? Is because that's going to tell you. Well, you could also use, well, yeah, no. I know I'm blabbering because I was just thinking out loud, but no, an audit's going to be the best way because it's going to tell you exactly what pages are not doing well.
And
Yeah.
you can automate it too. You can have it run every 4 days, or we say at least twice a week, Monday and Friday. Especially like if you're putting content out at scale, like 40 times a month, you should run an audit at least 2 to 3 times, at least twice a week, at least.
I guess there's no real manual way to know what content needs pruning, is there, without an audit of some kind?
Without checking analytics,
Yeah.
no.
But if you've got a website that's got like a lot of pages on it, imagine how long it would take you to check analytics, unless you just go for like the bottom few
Yeah,
pages.
that's the way to do it, is just filter it by the bottom performing, like least amount of sessions and like conversions, of course, and views. But the whole point really is just to not make shit content. Then you won't have that problem.
Yeah, but there's a different, even content that you've done that you're the best you can do. It could be that you've put links in there that for some reason the websites or web pages you're linking to don't exist anymore. And that's not anything that you've done. So it's not even necessarily that you've got shit content. It could be just links that don't work anymore or whatever, or laws have changed in that particular state. And so therefore it's not recent and updated information. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
even necessarily shit. It's just time changes things,
Yeah. Algorithms and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, because I was like, oh, is there any other thing on an audit? Not really. I mean, yeah, you can run analysis on it, but that's just time consuming. That who's got the time to do that? So yeah. So okay, so you run your audit's telling you, is there ever a time though when it's just best to get rid of a page totally? Or is that just when you would 301 a page?
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to delete a page, but you can 301 it like back to your home page or back to like a more relevant page.
Yeah.
Or like contextually relevant. Maybe like, I don't know, like an old blog page or like an old, let's say you have a location in like Denver, or if you have two locations in Denver, one on the south side, the other on the north side. Location on the north side closes, then it would make sense to 301 it, that city page back to the other location in Denver on the south side. You don't want to delete it because you're getting some traffic. It's underperforming. Hence the reason why it shut down. So you want to then throw in that traffic to the other location. So
you would never completely remove a page.
I wouldn't delete a page.
Yeah.
I would merge. Well, it's our SOP here is to merge the page contextually where it makes sense, but not to delete the page. If by remove you mean delete,
Yeah.
then no, you do not want to do that.
So your first option would be to update it and optimize it if you can. if you can, right? So
You have to
whether that's
identify it. Yeah.
yeah. So whether that's updating links, updating the data on there, updating some keywords, that's like your first best option. And then your next option would be to like merge it if you can. So you've got two posts that are or two blogs that are quite similar, or they can be merged into one and one's doing really well and the other one's not so much, is to just merge them. Or you're like, I guess your next one would be like to 301 it if you can, which is redirecting it. Like, so like you said, you've got a north and a south location and one's closing and you just 301 that page into the one that's remaining open. So like that would be like preferential, like the order of preference of what you do.
Correct.
So when it comes to pruning, what's like the best practice for content pruning? Like, how would you go about it? How often would you do it? Like, what's the best, what we consider best practice?
The best way to do it is to update it with fresh content and then internal links and like keep an eye on it. The ones that you want to update or monitor the most are your city pages. So like your Denver dispensary page, your Boulder dispensary page, your Fort Collins dispensary page. That's where all your money's going to come from. So you want to keep an eye on those. And then if there's anything new, like, so like Fort Collins can be like, hey, like what concerts, like what's the lineup for spring or like summer 25 when that's announced, or like Denver, like Red Rock Amphitheater concert lineup for your Denver page. And then here's directions to Red Rocks Amphitheater. By the way, stop at our dispensary before you go. Like it's something like that. So like relevant, fresh data or content, pardon me, and then adding internal links in there. Is that what you asked of, like how to do it?
Just like best practices, like how often are you doing it? You're not doing it every day, right? You're going to do it like
not every day.
Pruning, I'm talking about.
Pruning, like you want to run an audit at least twice a week. I'd say every 30 days and test it. You should see an uptick with that kind of stuff, like with those kinds of add-ons. Generally, it's 15 to every 2 to 4 weeks.
Quick question. When you 301 a page, what happens to the backlinks on that page?
Those are redirected as well.
Oh, okay. So you don't lose them.
Right. So that link equity goes to the new page.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because you don't want to do that, do you? Okay. So are you suggesting then that if you run an audit, let's say you run an audit automatically every week, that your content pruning is basically aligned with the results of those audits?
Yes.
Okay. So that's quite often then, if needed. Sometimes it's not needed.
If needed, yeah.
So basically when it pops up, so if you run an audit automatically every week and it pops up, then that's when you would prune it. You wouldn't be like, time for the quarterly prune. Like you would do it.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. And then obviously you're making sure that you keep track of the changes that you're making.
Yeah, like we have spreadsheets, of course, like our SEO worksheets. You do want to keep track of, and there should be a plugin on the website too that has a history of this. So like this URL was redirected into this URL and just has a history of everything. Like the common ones are like if your site structure is not correct, let's just say your blog. If your blog structure is not www.dispensary.com/blog/indica versus sativa, if it's something else and you 301 it, all of those 301s will be shown as a history under that 301 plugin. If it's WordPress to the /blog setup. All of that is done for you.
So when you 301 page B into page A, if page A is performing really well, by 301ing page B into page A, you can't derail that performance, can you? Meaning if page A is ranking really high by itself and you 301 another page into it, it can't decrease that performance.
No, theoretically it should help it.
Okay. I guess that's what I was asking. I was making sure it can't be detrimental to that.
But keep an eye on it. I mean, keep an eye after every day, ideally, but at least, if you have to make a change 1 week after 301ing, then you have to make a change. Maybe new keywords, new content, internal links, something like that, but definitely keep an eye on it.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss when it comes to content pruning?
I think we covered it. I think the main potatoes of it is add fresh, relevant content that seasonally makes sense, add internal links, and keep an eye on the keywords. And that's really how to prune content. That's when like adding in content to make it better, but you have to identify it first. So use an auditing tool like Screaming Frog or Google Analytics or Search Console. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
And just adjust. Just test it. Adjust it as needed. So much of this is like testing and adjusting, iterating. So keep an eye on it. Is there anything, because like you don't get your hands dirty with this stuff, which I think is good because it lets you have like a wider lens on it. Is there anything you would recommend?
The only thing that like really comes to mind is like the relevancy of the data or the content, because so much changes. I guess I'm talking more about like rules, regulations, laws, and stuff like that changes within the cannabis space that, or if you're an MSO, for example, and you're opening new locations, I think just being so aware of that and really keeping on top of it, regulatory specifically comes to mind. That would be like the one thing I would really pay attention to. Yeah, that probably would be the one thing. And also links. Like being very well aware of what links you have on what pages. So have a spreadsheet and just run that audit and check those links, because that's something you don't have control of, right? Most of your website you do have control of. But if somebody removes a page that you have externally linked to, you don't have control over that.
Yeah.
So that would make me nervous if I wasn't running audits to make sure that those links were still working. So those are the two big things I think that really come to mind.
Gotcha.
From like my perspective of not really digging in as deeply as you do and stuff, that would be the one thing that I would be very well aware of. Something that you don't have control of, but yet affects how your website performs is not a fun thing. Now you can be aware of it, that it's happened and make changes, but that's after the event. So that would be for me probably the most important.
And luckily we have a great analyst who keeps an eye on this stuff. She is a gangster.
Very much so.
She's a badass. So yeah, shout out to her. And yeah, just keep an eye on your stuff, run audits. For the most part, make decisions based on the data.
All right. Well, that is the conclusion of episode 99. We'll be back next week with our 100th episode. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop!
100th episode where we'll have a good time.
By the way, I need to say that before we go into episode 100 or record it, when we had the idea to start this agency and some sort of like, voice, plant our flag, some sort of like platform, I had the idea for a podcast. I think you had poopy pants for at least a week and didn't want to do it. I remember that very clearly.
We'll discuss next week.
Yeah, that was over 2 years ago. That was, that was right when ChatGPT came out, because we asked ChatGPT.
Let's discuss this next week. This is all part of our discussion next week, and you're going to ruin it.
It was actually your idea.
So I have a little map of things to discuss next week.
Oh, okay.
Those two topics are included. So if you want to talk about them now, you're going to ruin episode 100.
Okay. I will not do that then.
Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, yes, amongst things we will discuss next week is how the podcast came about, how the name came about, how much we like or dislike it, people we've had on the podcast, people we'd like to have on the podcast. It's just going to be basically like a free-for-all chat. Not really, like a lot of times we have like outlines for our podcast and we know exactly what we're going to discuss. This one will more be like bullet points of like, let's talk about this, let's talk about that, without really like a specific like structure to it. So it will be more of like a chat type deal than this is more, structured. But we will be discussing such things as that. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. We'll be back next week with episode 100 if Charlie doesn't ruin it by adding any more snippets in already.
Whatever.
We will be available for you to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. All of the above. You can like, comment, subscribe, review, ask us any questions you have, any criticism, constructive preferably. I think that's it.
That's it, fam. See y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the High Rankings podcast, brought to you by Dispensary-Growth, the preeminent SEO agency for dispensaries. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in the insight and the tips we shared. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling super generous, we would love it if you left us a review. If there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, or if you have any questions, you can go ahead and find us on LinkedIn or YouTube. We'll see you next time.